Hi everybody, it's your human anatomy and physiology teacher, Mr. Poser. Today we're getting into our last video in our second unit on the introduction to the human body, and we're going to be filling out this big old diagram, and that's on regional body terms. So hopefully you got a copy of this diagram. If not, let me know for you to fill out as you're going through this video, because I'm going to go through every single one of the terms on this diagram, front and back, so anterior and posterior. All right, so let's get into it. Without further ado, we got a lot to cover, so let's start with the top, right? Right here, this is called your frontal region. You also have a frontal bone there and a frontal lobe. That's part of your brain. So your forehead is called your frontal region. Just beneath that, this arrow is pointing to the eye. That is called the ocular region. Let's bring down the font just a little bit. There we go. Ocular region, right down there. Let's bring that down. There we go. Much better. All right. So ocular, the oculus, that has to do anything having to do with eye. So there it is. Okay, so the nasal region refers to the nose. So nasal passages refer to those going in your nose. All right, so nasal is the term that we use for nose in anatomy. Buccal is the term that we use for the cheek. In fact, one of the muscles that actually help you smile, and your main cheek muscles, they're called your buccinators. So buccal, B-U-C-C, has to do with your cheeks. All right, the mouth is referred to as the oral region. So if you give an oral presentation, you're speaking, right? So you're using your mouth to present. All right, so oral. Let's see, right down here, the chin, this is referred to as the mental region. I know, it's kind of crazy. Mental, right? But, yeah, that's what it is. It's called the mental region. I don't have a good example to go along with that. So mental, hey, your neck is referred to as your cervical region, which might not be exactly what you expect, but, I mean, I guess that's the way it is. In fact, your vertebrae in your neck, they're called C1, C2, C3, and C stands for cervical. So they're referring to the neck bones. So yeah, there you have it. Right over here, I'm going to have to move my face a little bit. The point of the shoulder is called the acromial region. So the acromion is referring to the junction between your clavicle, which is right here, your collarbone, and your scapula. So right over here, this is your acromion. So that's referred to the acromial region. Your breastbone right here. This is also known as your sternum. So this is the sternal region. This arrow is pointing to right over here. Let's keep going. This muscle right here, this is your pec, right? So it's the pectoralis major. So this region is called the pectoral region. So if you have a pectoral strain, you have either strained your pectoralis major or pectoralis minor. All right, this over here, the armpit, is called the axillary region. So axillary, or when you hear about axillary glands, it's the glands that produce your body odor. Your armpits are stinky and they're producing all sorts of chemicals. Okay, let's keep going. Right over here, the nipple is referring to, this is referred to as the mammary region. Seeing as we are mammals, human beings are mammals, meaning that females, I should say, those of the female sex are able to produce milk from their mammary glands. So that's part of what being a mammal is. All right, let's keep going here. Right over here, we're looking at the abdominal region, much like the abdominal cavity that we looked at. So the abdomen is a word for that. This term right here, this is the brachial region. Brachial refers to arm right here. So the brachial region is your arm. You may have heard of the brachial artery before, and a brachial artery is it's a blood vessel that carries oxygenated blood from your heart to your fingertips on all the way through your arm. All right. So right beneath brachial here, this is antecubital. Antecubital. Ante, this prefix is referring to the anterior, so we're on the anterior side. It's basically the front of your elbow. This is your antecubital region, right there, and that's that's where you get needles sometimes. When you're getting your blood drawn or something like that, is right in your antecubital region. Why? Because you have access to some nice arteries there. All right. Over here, right beneath that is actually what we call the antebrachial. Anti referring to anterior again, but it's more like this is antebrachial is referring to your forearm. Okay, so antebrachial, forearm, brachial is just arm. Right over here, your belly button or your navel is also called your umbilical region, as in the umbilical cord comes out of it when you're born. That's the remnant of your umbilical cord. All right, down here we're looking at the inguinal region, so the groin area. This is the inguinal region. I don't have anything for that other than that's what it's called. All right, over here, the hip. This is referred to as the coxal region. Coxal. Okay. I'm going to go down here, and then I'm going to get back to the hand. All right, so coxal, as right below coxal, we get into the pubic region, and below the pubic region on the other side, this is referred to as the genital region. And you know, since I'm making a video on the internet, I decided to blap that out. So take it as you will. All right, let's keep going. All right, let's talk about the hand now. So the wrist, let's start with that. The wrist, this is referred to as the carpal region. So if you may have heard of carpal tunnel syndrome before, it's actually an issue with your wrist bones. So I'm going to move my face real quick. All right, so the carpal, your thumb has its own term. It's called the pollex. So your thumb is your pollex, and your big toe actually has a term that we're going to talk about in a second as well. This arrow right here is the palmar region, and it's referring to your palm of your hand, where your metacarpals are. All right, and then finally, your fingers. These are referred to as digits. So the term for your fingers are the digital region. Digital. All right, let's keep going. All right, so let's go back over here. Right below pubic over here, we're going to be referring to the thigh. The arrow is pointing to the thigh, so that is what we call the femoral region. You might have heard of the femoral artery, another big old artery going from your aorta down to your legs and carrying oxygenated blood. And also your femur is the bone that makes up your thigh. So that's where that word comes from. All right, the front of your knee, you may have heard of this before. It's called your patellar region, as in that's where your patella is, or your kneecap. So keeping down from there, if we're talking about the shin, we're referring to the tibia, and thus this is called the tibial region. So tibia is your shin. You can't really see it in my video right now, but still. All right, let's keep it going here. The leg, just the leg in general, this is called the crural region. It's really hard to say, and I don't know why it's called the crural region, but it just is. Let's keep going. All right, this arrow right here is pointing to the ankle. That is called the tarsal region. So carpals, tarsals, those are wrist and ankle bones. And then down here, if we're pointing to the toes, this is once again digital. Okay, so really, if we are descendants of other mammals that walked on 4 legs, then really toes and fingers are the same thing. If you really think about it, they're all, we're bipeds, sure, but we're descended from quadrupeds, which means that we walk on 2 feet, but we used to walk on 4. So I mean, these are remnants of feet. So you might as well call them the same thing, right? All right, and then finally your big toe. This is called your hallux. Isn't that cool? Hallux, big toe. Isn't that so much better than big toe? Maybe big toe is pretty fun to say too. All right, and then finally your foot itself. It's denoted by this little bracket. It's called your pedal region. Yeah, it makes sense, right? You push your foot to the pedal, right? You pedal on your bike. You're a pedestrian. You're on your feet. Right? So ped means foot. Okay, to the backside now. Let's start with this over here. This bracket is referring to your whole head. It's called the cephalic region. So lots of different groups of animals actually have their Latin names that mean these body parts as well. So like there's a group of mollusks like octopi and squid and that kind of thing. They're called cephalopods. And if you break down the Latin of that word, it means head foot, because that's really all they are. It's just a big head with feet. It's kind of cool. So yeah, cephalic is referring to your head. Okay, over here, this is the otic region, and that's referring to your ears. So your ears. So an otic infection is an ear infection, right? On the back of your head, it's referred to as the occipital region. You have an occipital bone in your skull, it's back here, and you have an occipital lobe in your brain, so it's all the back of your head. All right, so there's going to be some repeats on this diagram, but that's okay. We don't really care that much. So over here, if you remember from the other side, the point of your shoulder is your acromial region. Your acromion, again, that's the junction between your clavicle and your scapula. Acromion. All right, this big old bracket over here is referring to the back itself, which is the dorsal region, right? So if you have a dorsal fin, you have a fin coming out of your back. Let's keep it going here, right below acromial. It's referring to this, and that is the vertebral region, because that's where your vertebrae are. Since you are a vertebrate, you have a backbone. I don't know, I'm not sure if that's news for you. All right, right below vertebral, we have the scapular region, because this is referring to the scapula. Scapula means blade, shoulder blade. There it is. All right, another repeat here. The arm itself, you remember from the front? It's called the brachial region. Brachial. I'm going to come back to this one. I always struggle with this one. I'm going to come back to it. All right. Okay, so the elbow. All right, there's actually two terms for it, but we're going to go with olecranon. Yeah, actually, let's put both. Olecranon, or it's the cubital region, you know, because antecubital, anterior, cubital, antecubital, cubital. It's up to you. I like olecranon too, though. All right, let's keep it going back here. This is referring to the lower back, which is called the lumbar region. The lumbar region, which reminds me of this one up here. Okay, but the lumbar. Okay, lumbar vertebrae, it's your lower back. You have 5 of them, so your vertebrae are called L1, L2, L3, L4, and L5. L stands for lumbar. I just remembered it. Okay, this is referring to the thoracic region. Thoracic region, it's your thorax. Haha. Okay, yeah, so your vertebrae, they go C1, C2, all the way down to C7. But your middle of your back, okay, it's called your thoracic vertebrae. So they're called T1, T2, all the way down to T12 until they reach L1, L2, L3. All right, so thoracic. Clutch, Mr. Poser. All right, this region over here, okay, it's the bone right above your butt. It's called the sacral. Well, that bone is called the sacrum. So this is the sacral region, right over there. Hey, this bracket over here is just referring to the hand itself, and your hand is called your manus. So there you go. Manual refers to anything using your hands. All right, let's keep it up. You might know this one already. This is your gluteal region, as in your gluteus maximus and gluteus minimus, your butt. All right, let's keep it going here. The region between the genitals and the gluteals, this is called the perineum, or so, thus it's called the perineal region. There it is. Okay, this bracket over here, once again, we are referring to the crural region. So that's your leg again. Not sure why it was like that on the front side, unless I'm making a mistake. But if I am, I'm going to let you know, all right? Back here, we got another repeat. This is the femoral region, referring to the thigh. Pretty spectacular. Okay. Back here, one of my favorite ones, just because it sounds silly. But the back of your knee is called your popliteum. So this is referred to as the popliteal region. Isn't that great? Popliteal. It's a great word. Okay. Your calf is referred to as your sural region. The muscle that composes most of your calf is called something a little more complicated, but we're going to call the calf is the sural region for now. All right. Your heel is called your calcaneal region. and the heel bone itself is called the calcaneus. So calcaneal or calcaneal is your ankle, and then the bottom of your foot is called the plantar region. If you've ever had or heard of plantar warts, you know they're warts on your bottom of your feet. You have plantar fasciitis. I'm a runner. I know running injuries. So plantar fasciitis is, it's an inflammation of the fascia or the connective tissue in your muscles on the bottom of your foot. And I've heard it's pretty painful. I've never had it before, but yeah. All right. So that's this whole diagram. Please let me know if you have any questions. You will be asked to remember these terms for a quiz. All right. Bye.